Good evening. My phone says it's 6 o'clock, so I want to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Kenedy City Council, our regular City Council meeting, December 8th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Welcome everyone. Glad to have you here. It's nice to be able to meet face-to-face again as opposed to the telephone meetings that we experienced in the past, so thank you all for being here. The second item on our agenda is Ms. Hines. Do we have a quorum present this evening?
Yes, let me call. Councilor Wynn?
Here.
Councilor Briones?
Present.
Councilor Sines?
Here.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilor Meyer?
Here.
All are present.
All are present and a quorum is here this evening. The third item on the agenda is prayer, and I would like to invite Mr. Wynn to lead us in prayer this evening.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this incredible weather and the wonderful sunshine. And we ask that you would watch over us as we conduct business to run this beautiful city that you blessed us over. Allow us to be able to do the best with what we have and accomplish the things that we can and get done the things that need to get done to move our city forward. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
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 I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amanda, do we have any citizen comments on item number 5 this evening?
No.
As we have no citizen comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 6. And this is my favorite agenda item this evening. It's my honor to present a proclamation to the Kenedy Lions varsity football team for their accomplishments and proclaim December 8th, 2020 as Kenedy Lions Football Day. And I have spoken to many people in this community that are very proud of these young student athletes and their coach and all the coaches and everyone who helped make them as successful as they were this year. So if you just give me a moment, I'm going to read the proclamation and then I will present it to Coach Alvarez on behalf of the team. Unfortunately, we couldn't have the team members with us this evening, but we're happy to have Coach Alvarez here. And so I'll just go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas the Kenedy High School boys football team, the Lions, through hard work and perseverance over 8 hard-fought games, achieved the designation of 2A District 1 by-district champions. The Lions take great pride in representing their opponents and that they played the game of football with class and dignity. And whereas the demanding athletic competition requires the highest level of skills, determination, teamwork, and focus on selfless commitment to others, and whereas these 24 outstanding student athletes have represented themselves, their families, their school, and their community proudly, and whereas the team was coached by Athletic Director Sean Alvarez, it is a great pleasure to express to the Kenedy Varsity Lions on behalf of the City Council and all the citizens of Kenedy, Texas, our sincere congratulations. And now therefore, I, Joe Baker, Mayor of Kenedy, Texas, publicly commend the Kenedy Varsity Football Lions for their accomplishment and hereby proclaim December 8th, 2020 as Kenedy Lions Football Day.
Thank you.
Got it? Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, yes, sir. Appreciate it, John. The next item on the agenda is departmental reports, and Mr. Lynn Are we going to follow the same pattern as last time? Are you going to be presenting on behalf of the departments?
No, sir, not this month. The department heads will do their own presentations today.
Great, that's fantastic. We'll start with the city secretary report. Ms. Hines?
Do you mind if I remove my mask when I speak?
You can remove your mask, absolutely.
Thank you. For the city, can y'all hear me? For the city secretary report, the city had 2 new hires in the water department for the month of November, and there was 1 termination in the water department. Our city hall is still open for business, and we are still allowing citizens to come into city hall to conduct any type of business they need, and the ramp is still available at the drop box is still available at the end of the handicap ramp. Our Christmas in Kenedy, which was on December 4th, was a huge success. The entire team worked very hard and diligently to make sure this was a success for our community. I can honestly say every single team member put something in towards making this the success it was and helped out in any way that was asked of them. And for that, we are very grateful and appreciative. Joe Hernandez, who is the street superintendent, he was actually the one that took the lead at the park, making sure everything went up. And he proved once again that he's a great leader for the city, and we're thankful for him and all of the team that helped out for the Christmas in Kenedy. So that is my report, and then I can go ahead and do the fire department reporting.
Before we move on to the fire department, I just want to express my congratulations to Mr. Lynn, Ms. Hines, Mr. Hernandez, and all the city employees, and I'm thinking there's probably some other volunteers that helped out as well with an outstanding event. Christmas in Kenedy was amazing. We took our family, we got in our pickup truck with our pets, and we drove through and saw the beautiful lights and listened to Christmas music and enjoyed the wonderful gift at the end, and that was a tremendous event. This year especially, with COVID-19 and how difficult this year has been, I just want to thank everyone who works for the city for doing an outstanding job. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the next report is fire department?
Yes, the next one is a Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department report. The Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department was dispatched to 4 calls. Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department was on scene for the following calls. 1 was a gas spill at the H-E-B convenience store. 20 to 30 gallons of fuel on the ground in the parking lot. 1 possible heater on fire. The heater fan was not working. 1 gas pocket, which was a cloud of fog coming off of a pond. And 1 assist to Kenedy PD to open a safe. We were able to host our first business meeting on November 23rd since the COVID shutdown. The department voted not to elect new officers, but to keep the existing officers in their positions, with the exception of Austin Bryan stepping down as treasurer secretary, but retaining the captain position, and Danny Obaya stepping down as interim president and retaining his vice president title. Treasurer secretary was filled by Mary Villanueva, and president was filled by Mallory Deason. There were no new members signed for the month of November. And that completes the fire department report.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. The code compliance report is next on the agenda.
Hold it down for 3 seconds. The button.
Dead battery, perhaps?
We were We're having technical difficulties, of course, it's 2020. It's possible.
Sir, if you could just speak loudly, and feel free to drop your mask if we can help you be, sure.
Mayor, Council, Code Compliance Report for November 2020. We had 9 permits issued, 10 inspections, 21 roll-offs, and awarded bids for 202 Victoria and 704 South Gate. And that is all on the Code Compliance Report.
Any questions about code compliance from the council?
The bids were for the demo,
Yes, sir.
so the one on 8th Street, they're gonna tear it down?
One on 8th Street and 202 Victoria.
Okay.
To the church.
Good deal.
Any further questions on this report?
I have a question on the inspections. Who's doing those, Joel? Is it still Bureau Veritas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They're doing plumbing also, all
Yes.
electrical.
They're doing everything.
Any further questions? If not, thank you for your report, and then we'll go on to Public Works.
Good afternoon. Y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I speak kind of loud anyway.
That's a good thing.
Hello, council, mayor. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jerry Higgins, and I'm the public works director for the city of Kenedy. I'll start out with a couple of small things, and then we'll see if y'all have anything that you want to add. Our water plant produced 43.3 million gallons of water for the month of November. Our water loss was 4.2 million gallons, and that comes to 9.7%. Our wastewater treatment plant flow was 35.8 million gallons for the month, and we had 2.1 inches of rain. Our service orders completed for the month for all the departments included was 1,734. On our meter updates that we've been working on, we have updated approximately 125 plus so far. It's not gone as fast as I would have liked, but we have been shorthanded, and the people that we do have lack experience, so we're training as we go. So hopefully as we move forward, we'll be able to get more of these in place a little faster. Most of you probably know that we're working on a project on Pecan Street for the water and sewer. We were replacing the sewer because we had issues, and while we were doing that, we come across other issues that we ended up having to replace the water line as well, which needed to be replaced. But they're supposed to have the water done and tied in tomorrow. And hopefully the sewer probably by the end of next week. And hopefully then we can get through with Pecan Street. The police alley back here was what we're calling this. We're pretty much done with that. I mean, we still got a little clean up and some base and stuff to do here and there in the alleyway. Since I've been here almost a year now, come 30th of December. And since I've been here, we have been in a stage 3 to stage 4, but mainly a stage 3 water conservation plan. And it has caused a few issues with not knowing where we stand with some community things that were going on. So I've kept track of that, and I went back from the time all the way to January of last year and kept track of that. And I don't know if y'all have a copy of that or not, and if you have that packet. I don't know if y'all get. I apologize.
I don't believe there was a copy in the packet that I received. Did anyone else get a copy?
We'll get you a copy, Mayor.
Okay.
Sorry about that, but looking at the numbers and where we are and where we've been over the last few months, according to our drought contingency plan, water conservation plan, our normal output is around 2.4 million gallons capability per day. So that's at max flow. So on the water conservation plan that we drew up, get back over there, I'll find it again. You're in no drought contingency plan or water restrictions up to 1.594944 gallons per day. So that's 1,594,944 gallons. And that is, I don't have my percentage on here. I brought the wrong sheet. But anyway, I've got the total numbers. Stage 2, once you reach 1.8 million, you go into stage 2. Stage 3 is 2.085. And stage 4 is 2.2 million. Going back, going back all the way to January, we've only hit a stage 2 number a very few times, and the last time we hit it was September the 19th. So in saying all of that, I recommend at this time that the water department in the city of Kenedy go to at least a stage 2. Go from a stage 3 to a stage 2. And I believe that is a safe number to look at, and that's what I recommend for that. And that pretty much, I've got 37 pages of stuff. I'll stop with that. If y'all have any questions, feel free.
I just have a couple of questions. You mentioned a 9.7% water loss for this month. I was wondering how that compared to the preceding month. Do you happen to recall what the percentage was last month?
I do, but
Seems like it was a higher number based on just my recollection.
It fluctuates. Again, water loss is water we cannot account for. And we have formulas and things that we go by. We do the best we can. But again, it is the best of an estimated number. But we have to have something to go by for other reports, which will be coming up in January through April, somewhere through there. We'll have a water loss survey and a water loss report and things, and so all of these numbers are calculated throughout the year, so we can do those reports. And I have that. Give me a second.
Oh, don't worry about it. I can always look it up later at a later time. Mr. Lynn, can we take any action on going back to stage 2 tonight, or does that need to be an agenda item for the next month's agenda?
We can put that on the agenda next month, but the Public Works Director has that ability to do that, to take us to stage 2.
Oh, they don't need council's approval then? Okay, that's good. Well, I for one, as a resident of Kenedy who would like to go back to washing my car in the driveway, would appreciate that. Is that allowed under stage 2? I said I can look up the restrictions later. I know that stage 3 prohibits it.
I don't have the drought contingency plan here with me, but it does list that in there. I apologize for not knowing it offhand.
Not a problem.
Just enough to probably get me in trouble with what it says.
I've got the papers at home, so I will look it up when I get home.
But I have that contingency or water conservation plan. I changed the name of it.
Right.
It's kind of thrown me, but I have that in my office, and that we put together, and it was approved by TCQ back in September or somewhere through there.
The bottom line is stage 2 is going to be easier on the citizens than stage 3. So we're all excited. That's good news. We're all excited to hear that. Are there any questions from the council?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the street, Pecan Street, that y'all are doing all that work on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, down at the end of Pecan Street, there's 2 lots there. Are we replacing, but there's no houses there? Those 2 houses, I remember back in the days, used to be 2 houses there. So are we putting back the meters and the services, and the sewer services that were there previously?
It has been our rule that any empty lot goes back to services only.
Good.
So,
Good.
just like we went down Maytag and anywhere else we've been.
Just because there's not a house there,
Exactly.
if there's water and sewer service there, we need to put it back.
Because I guarantee you, 3 months after you don't, you're gonna have to go back in there because
Yeah.
somebody will move in there.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir, that's our rule. of thumb.
Okay, I just want to be mindful of that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, because the citizens will come up and, hey, I had sewer there and I had water and it didn't get rehooked back up. Even though I'm not using it, I want it there.
Yes, we have somebody, what is his name? But apparently there was a water line replaced there, and I talked to him just this past week, want to know, would he have to pay a tap fee? And I said, no, if the meter's already there and it didn't get reconnected, then no.
It's grandfathered in. It should be put back.
Because the meter box is still there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that property in question is Mr. Foley's property. That's what, he's one of my voters.
He may be one, but that wasn't the name that.
Yeah, well, that's the one on the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, the 2 houses used to be. And on the, I'd say on the sewers, in November, we had 12 backups. Are we sending bypass reports to TCEQ when we unstop sewer line?
Yes, when we do that, we send SSOs every month, yes.
We send it to them
Yes.
with the estimated spillage that,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Yes, SSO form, sanitary sewer overflow form, and we're filling them out and sending them in.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
Mr. Higgins, I got a question. Going back to stage 2, we had a problem last summer. I'm just asking this because we're still in stage 3. One of the pumps goes down out on 743 way out there where our well sites are. It threw us into stage 4. If one of those pumps go down, we're moving back into stage 3 for the time being while it gets repaired, or what is y'all's plan for that if a pump goes down?
If it's some kind of catastrophe happens, we'll automatically issue some kind of statement and go on whatever restriction is needed for the time.
Okay.
Because best way laid plans come to fail, so you plan for the best, or plan for the worst, hope for the best type thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything mechanical can and will fail eventually, so.
Any other questions from the council? Thank you for your report. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Next on the agenda is the police chief report. Chief Ash.
American lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Let's start off with animal control first. For last month, I had 44 calls for service. We picked up 28 dogs and 19 cats. Also 26 dead animals that we had to pick up. We did, 13 of those dogs were reclaimed and then 10 went to the rescue group, so we'll take care of it. We did issue 2 citations, 8 warnings, and we had 1 dog bite that was the owner, his own animal did it. It still has to be reported as a dog bite, so we did have 1 about the month. One of our animal control officers is off on vacation. He comes back in a few weeks, and then another one will be out with the baby leave. But we will have at least 1 still with us.
Chief, what about cats?
We do pick up cats as well. We picked up 19 cats last month.
Because
And
they
those
are,
usually in traps.
they're bad right now.
Normally, we pick them up when we get complaints. So if somebody's complaining about cats in a certain area, we'll put the traps out there and catch them.
Okay.
There are really just too many to do.
8th Street,
Where to have them.
405.
I guess somebody take a look at it. We'll put out some.
I've been spraying for fleas for the last month because my yard is infested with them from the cats, which come down and rest at night.
Yeah, cats are everywhere in this town.
Yeah. So,
Anything else now?
I didn't want to hurt them, but I want them to go away.
For our emergency management report, we did get, I know Councilor Rios was asking me about this. We finally did get our siren. Several months ago, it stopped turning. It was still sound, but it wouldn't turn. His people were able to get it to turn, but then we lost connection. Dispatch, this month, the county people were able to reconnect it. So now it turns, it works, everything's working on fine now. So it will go off and it will also turn. Before it was pointing, if you were to Ashland, you heard it just fine, but everywhere else in the county didn't really hear it. So, but now it'll stay in it and it's working. So Jerry's team did a good job of getting that fixed for us. They were able to get up and fix it without having to have an expensive crew come to San Antonio to get it. So that is now working. For our police department, I know I've been updating you a lot continuously on our process we're working through for our recognition program. I know last month I told you we were done with all of our standards. We now have finally got a date for our on-site. It won't be until February. We can't get to it until February, but they will be here in February to do the on-site inspection. Once they do the on-site inspection, that's the last phase of that. They'll be here for 2 days. They inspect everything we do. They write with officers. They go through all the files, the evidence. They do the whole thing. Once that's done, that's the last phase. We then become what they call a recognized agency. The state of Texas has about 1,900 agencies total. 160-ish that are recognized. So my math is not real good, but it's about 10%. So we're really excited about that. Now we just kind of sit and wait for get that done. We did this last month. We were able to send 3 officers to a basic SWAT training. They weren't quite sure what they thought they were going to get when they got there, but it was interesting for them. So we now have 3 more people that are trained in special weapons, emergency tactics. This gives us some more officers to use when we do our search warrant situations. When we run a search warrant, we always use it gives us more people that are trained on how to do that, so make it safe for us. We have been, a few months ago, back last summer, the council authorized me to staff a traffic position. The job was to go out and work truck route and other traffic, particularly the truck route. We started doing that in June. Officer Pham has been working on that. We continue to see the number of truck violations decrease each month. It's not because he's not stopping them, they just will find fewer and fewer trucks, and that is the goal we want to see. Our traffic stops remain high, but the number of truck violations are dropping. So we are starting to see a reduction in the number of trucks coming down. The ones you do see now are normally people doing deliveries. He still stops them, and they say where they have a delivery in town, they're within the ordinance. But we are seeing a pretty steep reduction in that. We're also seeing a decrease in below average in our thefts and burglaries. That continues to trend for the last few months has been on a downward trend. So we're happy with that. Don't get me wrong, we still have a few thefts and we still have a few burglaries, but the numbers are decreasing. So that's on the positive side. I think last month before, the city manager asked me about setting up a safe exchange location for citizens who want to meet and sell something that they online. We're setting that up next on the Tilden side of our building, which is the south side of our building. The street department's putting a sign up for us. They're working on it today. We'll get that sign up and we'll put it out and let people know if you want to come meet somewhere to exchange something you bought online. You can do it there. It's monitored 24 hours a day with a camera, and it's also lit up very bright there. So we'll be putting that out. As soon as the sign gets up in place, I'll put it out on Facebook. That'll probably be tomorrow, next day. We'll get that done. And that's all I have for.
I think the safe exchange is a great idea. I'm glad to see you doing that. Please, if you need any help spreading the word once it's up and running, just let me know. Had one quick question. Someone contacted me today with some security concerns about the Escondido Creek Parkway.
Yes.
Have you had any incidents? Is there any issues over there?
So far, the only thing we've had at Escondido is we've had some tagging, some graffiti. Fortunately, it's all been the people working out there able to get their power washer and just wash it off. So there's been nothing permanent. There's been no other damage out there other than that. And it's one individual, one night went out and did some tagging on it. But they were able to clean that. Mr. Lynn and I are working on some other safety upgrades out there. Camera system, we'll put some cameras in around the pavilion, as well as what they call call boxes that be around the walking trail where you'll be able to go up and just push a button and call for help if you need something. So that's in the works. Hopefully next month or so we'll get those out there as well.
I know this time of year it gets dark early, so it should get easier, I guess, as we get closer into the spring and summer months,
Yes,
security-wise.
Escondido is technically closed at
dark.
At dark, right? It's open from dawn to dusk, correct?
There will be no gates or anything. You can still go in there, but technically it would be closed. I think the plan is to add that to our ordinance at some point, make it a city park so we can do some other things. But technically it does close at dusk.
Any questions from the council for our chief?
Could you please have the officers pass a little bit more in the Maytag area?
Maytag?
Yes, sir. A lot of speeding there. And the stop sign at DeWitt and Maytag,
The one
they're always running it.
Yeah.
They just rolled it.
So, I think it's hidden behind the tree, isn't it?
No, it's right there where Mr. Carrasco lives. But if people are coming from west to east, they just do a quick look like that off of 743, and then they, I'll be sitting on my porch all the time. I can see them from my porch, and I'm like, oh man, somebody's gonna get hit one day.
I'll get my traffic guy.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions for the chief? If not, then thank you, chief, for your report. Appreciate it. I believe that concludes the departmental reports. Mr. Lim, would you like to present your city manager report?
Thank you, Mayor. Mind if I move my mask, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Everybody here? Good. All right. First, let me say, Mayor, the water operator, the our public works director, does have the autonomy to do that with stage 2. However, I think it's a good procedural thing. We'll just put it on the next agenda. We'll let him do what he needs to do now. And then next month in January, we'll put it on the agenda for the council just to go ahead and formally let us go to stage 2. Okay? So we will do that. Let me begin by first asking the mayor a question. Did you enjoy your training?
Yes, sir. It was very informative. It was a full day, and it was a little bit exhausting because it's a lot of information to digest in one day's time, but the presenters were excellent. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, and it was definitely time well spent.
And for those who don't know, the mayor and I attended a newly elected officials class that's put on by Mrs. DeJour-Quez, who is the wife of our city attorney. She has a consulting firm, they do these types of things. They did a very good job. I knew most of the attorneys there. I worked with them, so I knew it was going to be good. So I just wanted to ask and let you put your input on that. I want to thank the city council, and I want to thank the mayor. Christmas in Kenedy could not have been even in existence if you all had not asked us to do it and given us your blessing to do it. So we certainly do appreciate you guys being willing to move forward with that and permitting the team to do that. I was very touched when I saw the team come together. We had a lot of individuals from various departments all pitch in to do different various tasks. And to stand here and to give accolades to every single person individually, I just wouldn't have enough time. But there are just a few people that were more behind the scenes that I wanted to give accolades to. I wanted to tell Mrs. Hines, thank you so very much. She was the individual who organized the whole thing, and when we put that on her shoulders at the prior council meeting, I knew she would do an awesome job, and she did not let us down on that. Ms. Hines and Ms. England and Ms. Hahn, they traveled literally all over Texas in order to make this happen. They went as far as Dallas to get lights. We had lights, so I want to thank them for taking time to do that. Now, with Ms. Hahn out of the office, that left Ms. Cornelius and Ms. Garcia to hold the fort down, to take and field all the calls from the residents and do that. So certainly behind the scenes, they didn't have a hand in putting it together that way, but they supported the city in that. I want to give them thanks for doing that as well. Definitely, I want to give a shout out to our police department and our fire department. Without them, we couldn't have had traffic control. And from what I understand from Chief Ash, the fire department jumped right in both feet, didn't ask any questions. So it was great to see those cross-departmental things happening there. Powerhouse, y'all may not know who Powerhouse is, but we did run through one little hiccup in putting this together, and that was we needed power. And while we have an idea for next year, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, it was Ms. Hines who remembered the individual who did the generators out here down for one of y'all's festivals y'all had, and we called Powerhouse, and they jumped right on. They were down here the next day with the generators and everything and set them up for us. So I want to give them a shout out for that, because without the generators, we couldn't have had the lights. And that's it. Definitely the Public Works team, as Ms. Hines alluded to earlier, they're the ones who put it all together. It was cross-departmental. We had Mr. Meek was a part of it as well. So we had all sorts of people there putting it all together. And then it kind of, y'all didn't see this, most of y'all who drove through, but those who stood around sure appreciated it. I want to give H-E-B a big shout out for donating the cups and the hot chocolate. It was kind of chilly that night, and they donated some hot chocolate and some cups so that we could give to the volunteers. But that hot chocolate cup was useless without water. So I want to thank Church's Chicken for donating the hot water for the to make the hot chocolate with. So this really was not just a city council, city staff thing. This was an entire city of Kenedy put this show on for the residents of Kenedy, and this could not have been a success without the residents of Kenedy showing up. So I want to thank each and all of the residents who showed up. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming out and making it such a success. So in beginning with that, I'll get into the biggest question I've been hearing around the office is this a one-off? And the answer is no. We will do this again next year. The plans are already in place to do this again next year. Now, depending upon a few things that I'm going to mention here in just a little bit, this may be a walkthrough instead of a drive-through next year. But we're looking at making it an annual event in the city of Kenedy. I'm actually hoping that when we get to this point of making it a walkthrough, which it will be, that we're going to take what you guys knew as Christmas in Kenedy with the skating rink and the Santa Claus and all that, and we're going to do it all at the park. We're going to drop Santa Claus in the middle out at the park. We'll drop the skating rink in the middle of the fields out at the park, and we'll have the people walking around the track, and they'll be walking through the lights and they'll be able to stop and get a hot cocoa, or stop and ice skate, or stop and visit with Santa Claus, or stop and play a game, or maybe grab a churro or something along the way. But that's the kind of a vision where we're looking at possibly going with this thing. I believe that the residents of the city of Kenedy would enjoy that, and based upon what I've been hearing from the council, the mayor, and the staff, I don't think I'm off point on that. There were 227 cars that drove through and got gift bags, and we had 35 volunteers staffing the event, just so that y'all know some basic numbers of how much of a success it was. If you figure 3 people per car, that adds up real quick. That's over 600 people enjoyed the lights. By popular request, we will continue to light it up every single night from 5:30 to 8 o'clock between now and December 16th. The caveat that I'm going to add to that is weather permitting. because it is a grassy drive. If it gets too wet, we can't let people driving on the grass and get stuck. So as long as the weather holds out, those lights will be shining all the way through then. So just to let everybody know about that. We have been in the works since I first came to the city of Kenedy. Actually, in my interview, I alluded to the fact that our website was substandard, in my opinion. There were some things about the website I didn't like. I know several councils have come to me throughout the year, and they have constantly asked me where I was. We were working with an organization, a local organization, and I have charged Ms. Hines with doing certain things that I want to the website. The issue with that is that it required her to be trained, and the person would never come to do the training. So finally, about a month ago, I told Ms. Hines and the team, I'm done with this individual. Find me a brand new company for us to do. And they went searching for websites. And they found a website that we liked, Floresville, if you want to take a look at it. The company that hosts there is called Drua. And so we've contacted them to have them do our website. Come to find out, this individual is only going to charge us roughly about $500 a year to host it and do a whole plethora of things versus the $3,600 a year we were paying the other individual. And he's going to convert everything over and import it and do all those wonderful technical gadget things for only $600. But the greatest thing that Ms. Hines has informed me he's going to do is he's going to set it up the way I want it set up, which will include several tabs just for your regular things, such as a home tab, a government tab, which will go to a government thing and list all y'all's names in that, a departments tab, a contacts tab, a forms tab. But then there's one tab I'm very big on, and I need it to be there. And he's going to put that on there. It's called a transparency tab. That transparency tab will contain the following information for our council, our residents, and anyone who wishes to look at the city of Kenedy. It'll contain the monthly financials. It'll contain our budgets. It'll contain our audits. It'll contain our departmental monthly reports, our agendas, our minutes. It will contain the meeting recordings. It will contain our tax rates, our property tax rate, our sales tax rate. It will contain a list of our debt. That's required by the state. It will contain our water rates, tap fees, and all of that. It will also contain our fee schedule for all of our fees within the city of Kenedy once we put that together. So every fee that you could possibly have, whether it's an animal control fee or an MEP, it's going to be listed on the fee schedule. And additionally, there's one little item that the attorneys and I work with in another municipality. I love doing this. It is a complete transparency thing. We are going to put up all open records requests. Every time we get an open records request, I know what I have to redact per the Attorney General. I will redact what the Attorney General tells me to redact, and we will put that up there so that every resident can see what is being requested for public information from the city of Kenedy. And I think that's important because residents need to know what other residents are requesting. It helps them feel warm and fuzzy sometimes. So that's just a little bit of information about that. I wanted to tell that. And I know we're going to get to later on in the agenda on that, but I had it on my report, Mayor, so I'm sorry about that. Another thing that is going on that I need to bring up is, y'all remember at the October 13th council meeting, we announced that we were going to go back to doing late fees and disconnects, okay? So I've been monitoring this since October 13th. Ms. Hines put it up on the Facebook page on October 15th, and we went forward with it from there. In November, when it came time for disconnects, we had a lot of people calling the city. They didn't want to be disconnected. So we made lots and lots of payment arrangements with people. We got them going on a payment plan. We asked them, what can you afford? We didn't tell them what to pay. We asked them if they could afford. They told us, because the key was we wanted the residents to understand that when you get into a payment agreement with the city, you have to pay your regular bill plus your payment bill, or you still get disconnected. And so they agreed to these terms. Again, this month we had the same thing happen. We had some residents who came up short and got disconnected. Through researching some things out, what we found was that quite a bit of those people were people that had payment arrangements and that they failed to meet their payment arrangements. Rather than telling those people they had to pay everything that they owed, we went back and we said, look, we'll do this one more time. We know times are tough. One more time, we'll do it. Give us 50%, and we'll put you on another payment arrangement. But, again, we're stressing to the residents, you've got to pay your regular bill plus your payment or you are going to get turned off. We can't continue to put people on payment arrangements. We have to understand. At some point in time, I've got to draw the Mendoza line in the sand and say enough is enough. Okay, but right now, we're doing that again. Now, for businesses, we kind of are augmenting that just a little bit. We've had some businesses that have had some issues, and we put them on payment arrangements. But what I'm requiring from the businesses is a little bit more because they are a business and not a resident. Okay? They need to put down 50% of what they owe, and then they have to pay the remaining 50% off with their regular bill the next month. And that I'm being very firm on. Simply because they are a business. They have revenue coming in. So that's just where we are on those things there. So I wanted to let you all know what was going on with the disconnects and those types of things. We have several projects going on in the city. One of those projects, Mr. Sinovitz will be speaking about here in a little bit, is our East Main project. It's been going on for quite some time in the city of Kenedy. A while back, the city of Kenedy elected to do away with Hanson Engineering, and we brought in Mott McDonald, who brought Steve Sinovitz with them to the city. Steve already had prior knowledge of East Main, and so where we are on this is we're going to be, as you'll see later tonight, we're going to be going out for bid for doing the East Main project. We are moving forward. We had a little hiccup with the current contractor that was there when Hanson was there. And Mr. Sinovitz and I put our heads together and I just said, forget him, move on, start from scratch with people and get one person to do it all. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have one person who's going to finish up the drainage and do the FDR road replacement down there so that we have one person to hold accountable for everything. So that's what we're looking for there. Sports complex is creeping along. They're doing the decorative fencing right now, which is the fencing that goes between what we're going to call the veins, the four entranceways to the park. They're doing that right now. They're finishing the archway. The building A, which is the concession stand, it's been a bit of a problem because of the contractor that was contracted to do it. They have nevertheless not performed up to the standards which I would expect. And I have had to send them a final email letting them know they have a final deadline of Monday morning at 8 o'clock to be substantially complete, or I will be getting the city attorney to call their performance bond. This has been going on. They were supposed to have been done with their portion of the project back in April, but we've been patient with them because of COVID and some other things. So, but that's where we are on that. The elevator that the council did approve is ordered and will be coming in, and that company that we ordered it from will do the installation of that, not this other company. So we don't have to worry about this other company to do the installation. The elevator people will do their own installation, so that's a very good thing there. Building C, which we'll get to later tonight, the award for that. That's the other portion of the park that has to be done yet still, are those bathrooms that need to be constructed. So that's kind of where we are there. I fully anticipate that we are going to be ready for UIL play if UIL permits the kids to play. So as far as everyone wants to know, it's a timeline. Look for that timeline for us to be ready to completely go, if not sooner. And finally, recently we purchased 8 lots of Nottingham. These 8 lots were a very tactical and strategic purchase for the city of Kenedy. Number one, it let us do Christmas in Kenedy and gave us an ingress and egress to Nottingham. But that is why we purchased them. Because in listening to all the counselors and all the staff and the residents that I've listened to since I've been here 9 months, the one thing I kept hearing about is what about our community center? What about our convention center? I agree we need a convention center. And I agree it needs to be out there at the park. With the purchase of the 8 lots at Nottingham, we now are in a position to build that convention center, to which I will be coming to the city council after the first of the year for the holidays and we will begin discussion on planning and construction of a brand-new convention center for the city of Kenedy out at the park. Nottingham provides the ingress and egress, that property does, to both Nottingham and 2102 that we need, as well as it gives us more land mass for parking so that we can do what we need to do and being able to make the convention center an attraction for people to come to and use. So I wanted to update everybody on that. So council, thank you for moving forward with those purchases. Are there any questions about anything that I've kind of rambled on about in this report?
Quick question about Christmas in Kenedy.
Yes, sir.
The decorations, will we be able to store those and reuse those in future years?
Yes, sir, we will. We will find a place we will store them, and we will reuse them, and we will build upon those each year.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. And also, I understand the budget was $15,000, is that correct? For Christmas in Kenedy?
Something like that.
Is it too soon to say whether or not we came in under budget?
No, sir, we did not.
Do you have a ballpark figure?
I probably don't.
So we're looking more like 30. Okay, will the council be presented a written report on expenses at any point in time?
If you all would like to know, we can print off a copy of the receipts, but I'll be going through the financials so we can do a budget amendment to move money that's not being used to that line.
I'd like to see an itemized report if that's possible. We could all perhaps help out. If there's any future purchases, we might be able to find better discounts at vendors and whatnot. Anyway, I think it's just good for everyone to know and be fully transparent on each line item expense with any event that the city of Kenedy hosts. So if you and the staff could prepare that report, I would greatly appreciate it.
We'll get that taken care of. That won't be an issue.
Any questions from the council for Mr. Lynn?
Mr. Lynn, on the reefs that we have downtown?
The ones outside?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are we in control of those, or is that the beautification committee? Do we make the decisions on those
It's
reefs?
city property, yes, sir.
Okay.
Our city put those up.
The reason I'm asking is because I know that we've had clear lights since we got the reefs.
Yes, sir.
I would like I don't know how the council feels, but next year, some colored lights. I'm talking about bulbs, like a Christmas tree that has different colored lights. I think it'd give it a lot more visual effect.
I agree with you. I really do.
We've had clear lights for the past, 9 years. I think the citizens would like colored.
Let's do this, if you don't mind, Councilor Rodriguez. Once we get through the season, what we'll do is we'll pull one down and the Christmas tree down and take a look and see what type of bulbs they are, whether they're C9s or C7s on some of them, or whether they're the little sticky ones and that. And if we can change them out, we'll look into the cost of getting color lights to change them out. We'll also look at seeing if they were actually hand done, if it was like just a regular wreath and it was just wrapped.
Yeah,
it was
it is.
purchased with the lights, which would make a difference in how they did it.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do to try to make that happen next year.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think it's time. We've had the clear lights for, like I said, 8 or 9 years, and I think the citizens would like a little bit. It would make downtown look a little bit more colorful.
And the good thing about doing that, Councilor Rodriguez, is we can move to LEDs, which would be brighter and single interest.
Yeah.
So yes, sir, great idea.
Any other questions for Mr. Lynn? If there are no further questions, thank you, Mr. Lynn, for your report.
Move into the financials. Does everybody have their cover piece of paper? Well, okay. All right. So starting with the left-hand side again, the available liquidity. Due to some moves we made, as you know, the general fund decreased. We have $4.188 million in the general fund in our tax pool account. That's our investment account. Our hotel and motel tax tax pool account has $2.225 million in it. The water and sewer has $853,000 in it, and the paving fund has $2.448 million in it. That gives us a grand total in our tax pool account of $9.715 million in that. Cash in the bank at the time of the report was $4.031 million. That gives us a total available liquidity of $13.746 million. And then the little number there on the bottom, that gives us 8.81 months of expenses. As I mentioned last month, we had 14 months of expenses. The decrease is due to the money we moved from land purchases, the right-of-way, things of that nature. However, we do need to be right around 6 months of liquidity. That's the optimum number, 6 months. Revenues, we are 2 months into our budget year, which means we should have consumed 16.67% of our budget. In revenues, anything over 16.67%, that means we outperform. Anything under 16.67% in revenues means we're non-performing. So we have a general fund where we have, we spent $471,000. We received $471,000, sorry, I misspoke, last month. And we are roughly at about 8.16% of the budget. That number is a little skewed because we had to transfer the money in from the reserves for the land purchases that we did. So that raised the budgeted revenues up. So before I transferred that number in, we were outperforming the budget. That is why it says outperforming, but we're still, by those numbers, we are still technically underperforming the budget there. We took in $670,000 in the water and sewer, which was about 20%. So we're definitely outperforming there. And then overall, we had a total revenue of about $1.1 million that came in that was not transfers. So that's about 13% of our budget. So we're outperforming. We're slightly underperforming our revenues there. I'm not alarmed to say it like that because it's November. Our tax money won't start cranking in until January, which is what will contribute to the general fund. So, our expenditures, we spent $4.1 million out of the general fund, largely for the Texas UP Pacific right-of-way of $3.5 million. That's $3.5 million of that 4.1 was the right-of-way purchase. But because we did that, we followed the numbers. It shows we spent 40% of our budget in 1 month, which means that we are underperforming our budget technically because of that. So even though it's skewed because of the purchase. Water account spent $600,000, which is about 14% of their budget. And so they are outperforming their budget a little bit, so that's good. And then overall, because of the purchase, we're still kind of underperforming our budget due again to the purchase of the primary right-of-way, which is a lot of ways for the water. Any questions on the financials?
Any questions?
Okay, if not, Mayor, Council, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. The next item on the agenda is number 9, consent agenda. And item A is the city council minutes. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes from last month's meeting? I believe I found one item that may need to be corrected. On item number 17 at the bottom of the page, Councilor James Douglas Meyer made a motion to appoint, I believe that should be 7 members instead of 7 members. If we could get that correct. That's the only thing that I noticed. Did anyone else notice anything that needed to be corrected? On item B, 9B, approved financials. Any questions on that before we consider a motion on approving the consent agenda? If there's no further question or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we accept the consent agenda, city council minutes, item A and B, approve the financials.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
Councilor Lynn?
Yes.
Councilor Kenedy?
Yes.
Councilor Hines?
Yes.
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 All in favor? Motion carries. Item number 10 on the agenda is consideration and possible action in regard to Resolution 20-33, a resolution confirming support to the proposed Town Oak Apartments located at 120 Water Street for construction of affordable rental housing in the city of Kenedy. Do we have a presentation on this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to consider?
Make a motion to consider item 10 on the agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Sorry, if you have a presentation for us, we're all ears.
Mayor, Council, may I?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Justin Meyer. I am with Parks Advantage. We are a consulting group working with the Town Oaks Apartments on their housing tax credit application to the State of Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for a 2021 housing tax credit, the 2021 housing tax credit cycle. I was here on February the 11th of this year, seeking the exact same thing. I recognize a few faces here. There are definitely some that I'm not familiar with at this point. But we are applying for the exact same program, just moving into the next year. Unfortunately, we were not successful with our application in 2020. We just barely missed the mark for being awarded funding, so we are hopeful that in 2021 we will exceed that threshold. So what we are doing is we are applying to the State of Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs for a competitive housing tax credit. This is essentially not quite a grant, but it's a source of funds that will allow us to renovate the existing Town Oaks apartments for the current residents, maintaining their affordable rents, and really just taking what is already there and making it better. We are. Does the council have this packet? This presentation?
Yes.
I don't even have that back.
No.
Oh, it's a different packet.
We have a packet.
Oh, yeah.
I have copies if anyone would
We
like
have
a
them.
larger print version.
Oh, are they in there?
Yes.
It's in the tablet.
It's on our tablet.
That what this is?
Yes, I have it.
Yeah, it's in the tablet.
Mine looks different because it's black and white.
I imagine everyone is familiar with the Town Oaks apartments. It's 48 units of affordable rental housing, 16 single bedrooms, 24 two-bedrooms, and 8 three-bedroom units. All of these units are reserved for families that are making 60% and below of the area's median income. It's located at 120 Water Street, and the current proposed rehabilitation includes retrofitting parking areas for accessibility, replacing kitchen sinks, replacing cabinets, countertops, new mailbox pad, new roof where necessary, VCT tile floors, parking lot upgrades, new Energy Star appliances. Proposed items are listed as part of that presentation. So a bit about our timeline. We are applying to the state of Texas for our pre-application. We'll go in on December the 8th, and on March 1st, 2021, we will have to submit our full application. And with that full application, we need to include a resolution of support from the local municipality, which is what brings me here this evening. We are seeking two things. The resolution of support, which is acknowledgement that we are planning to apply to the state of Texas for this funding resource, and the city council believes that that is, in general, a good idea to do. And the second piece is a waiver or reduction of fees related to the renovation for one-time reduction for the amount of $250. We did receive a unanimous vote back in February, and I am hoping for the same this evening, and I'm here for any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the council?
Is Town Oaks still with you might clear this up for me. Was Town Oaks in our jurisdiction, or I thought the county when they have police calls out there? It's ours?
It should be within the city council, the city limits, yes.
Okay. I was under the impression that it was not within the city limits.
Mr. Lynn, do you have anything to contribute on this?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So, when we talk affordable housing, the greatest impact to housing is to families. And when I say families, we're talking dual parent units with multiple children. Yet you only have 8 3-bedrooms available. What are your plans to increase the number of 3-bedrooms available to actually provide affordable housing for residents of the city of Kenedy, their families?
At this time, through the current program, as we are applying to it, there is no plan to modify the existing units. There's no expanding on the units. There's no changing unit makeup. It is the units as they currently exist. It's truly about taking what is there and improving what it currently exists.
So you're just taking the existing units and you're going into a program just to kind of remodel them?
Give them a facelift, yeah.
What's going to happen with the families that are currently living in the unit? They're going to be able to stay there while y'all do the work, or are you going to place them in another area, motel, or temporary housing?
The ownership, what they do whenever they do these types of rehabilitations is they do what's called renovating in post. And what they do is they'll move out a tenant during the day, do as much work as possible, and move them back in. Unless there is a vacant unit, a comparable vacant unit, in which case they'll take them from unit A and move them into B, which has already been refurbished. Where possible, we like to disrupt the tenants as little as possible, as much as can be accomplished while doing a major renovation. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in this age of COVID, okay, what I'm hearing is that you go into an apartment, you take these people, and you say, okay, it's between the hours of 9 and 5, we're going to ask you to leave while we come in there and we do this. How is that not displacing the individuals during this time of COVID where, most people want to stay within the confines of their own 4 walls? What are you all going to do to ensure that these residents can, number one, be safe and not have to go hang around Walmart for 8 hours a day while your remodelers are in their remodeling?
I understand that concern, and unfortunately at this time I don't have the answer to that. This is a new world we're in, just as much for us as it is for everyone else. So we've not encountered this at this point. It's not a hurdle we can get jumped.
The renovation is not going to...
Sorry, this is Mark Meyer. He's one of our partners.
Yes, sir. Would you like to come forward and speak?
If you look at the timeline there, the renovation won't start until 2022. So by then, we're hoping COVID has run its course and we've all been vaccinated and COVID is not a thing in another year and a half. So that's why.
Before anybody asks, the reason for the extended timeline is partially due to this being a USDA-funded property. So once we are, to go back to the timeline, awards would be made in late July. That's where the department board will actually make a vote and issue the awards list kind of quickly. And then we would receive the award in December of 2021. And at that point, we have to engage working with USDA, which is, of course, a federal agency and moves at the speed of federal agencies. So that is the reason for the extended closing and renovation timeline.
So aren't you subject to the same guidelines through HUD as well, that people can't be displaced whenever you're in low-income housing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm really having Greg, and I understand why you're here and what you're asking the council to do, but I'm really having a difficult time with displacing of my residents, even if it's only 4 to 10 hours a day during daylight hours 2 years from now, okay? I'm curious as to, if you have 2 years to do this, why there's not a plan being put in place to accommodate these residents. It would seem to me, and forgive me, I'm not a contractor, but it would seem to me that if you all move the residents out into a place, say maybe you partnered with another apartment complex in time to temporarily house your residents, if you could get the renovations done in a much expeditious manner, and the resident wouldn't be inconvenienced, not one iota, except for the move from one to the other, there wouldn't be inconvenience daily. So I just really am having a difficult time with this. I don't like to see any of my residents displaced for stuff like this when we have 2 years to make adjustments.
I understand that, sir, and I will remind you that we did receive unanimous support in February of this same year, and we would be in a much different circumstance if we were to begin construction, let's say, in March of 2021 versus an additional year.
I understand what you're saying. However, just because one council gave you a unanimous decision is not indicative of another council doing exactly the same thing. I myself am new. You did this in February. I came in at the end of March. Okay? Now the city council has charged me with taking care of the residents of the city of Kenedy within a certain degree of parameters. And this is my concern as the city manager, okay, is that these residents are going to be displaced and inconvenienced on a daily basis if you don't have another unit available, when it would seem to me that if you partnered with another company in town, you could minimize and reduce the trauma, if you will, of displacement to residents of the city of Kenedy. Even though we're still talking 2 years from now, that gives your organization 2 years to make the contacts necessary and the agreements necessary so that these residents aren't displaced like that.
I understand your concern. At this point, our focus is to try to get a board, and the only way we are going to be capable of doing that is with support from the city council. It is a competitive process, and everything is graded on a point scale. This item, just the resolution of support from the city council, is worth 17 points on our application. Application total points generally fall in the 120 to 130 point scale. Our program, we are competing with every other developer throughout the state trying to do the same type of renovations. In applications, when I say they're highly competitive, I mean they're not won or lost by 10 points, not 5 points, not 1. They're usually coming down to tiebreak factors, which is actually why we're not successful this past July. So without a resolution from the city council to say that the opportunity to renovate these apartments for the existing residents does not exist.
I understand your position. I just think the concern needs to be addressed in light of the city council giving their support. They're responsible to the residents of this town. If they give you their support tonight and give you those 17 points that you need, okay, and then these residents are inconvenienced in that, they're going to be looking to their city councilor, their district, to want to know why they're being inconvenienced. And it's an issue that not only needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be addressed, because you're asking the councilors to say, we're behind you 100% in doing this. We want this for our residents of the city of Kenedy, which I believe all my councilors here do. But they also have a concern with how is this going to adversely affect our residents as well. And when you start talking displacing people out of their homes so you can renovate, I don't know about my councilors, but that causes me great concern if you don't have a plan B for those people. And what I'm saying is, you have 2 years to put a plan B in place. That's what I'm saying. A little foresight, which you have, you know it's going to happen. I'm asking you to put a plan B in place.
And I can tell you that we have to submit on March the 1st with our full applications to the state. we have to include such a plan. And I can actually find that plan that we submitted from the 2020 cycle, and I can actually get you a copy of that. I would greatly appreciate that.
And right now, excuse me, Mr. Lynn, we have houses being built here in Kenedy right now, and part of that deal, it's the people that had their house that qualified for these houses to be redone, and I'm talking total demolition. Part of that is that they get put up in a motel during the duration of the house getting built. So the family that is there gets taken care of. And that's what Mr. Lynn's point is, that, you know, that, and at Town Oaks, I'm familiar with the place, there's a lot of kids. So you're gonna get a lot of families that, you know, if they get displaced indefinitely, that, you know, or if they have to go into their apartment that's full of fumes or whatever because you're doing construction, and they're gonna complain. So the complaints are gonna come to us.
I definitely understand that, and it's not our mission to displace people.
Yes, sir.
Our mission is to improve their housing.
No, I understand that. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
I have a question. Have y'all talked to any of the residents at Town Oaks
I have not
about this plan?
Communicated. We did this previous year, whenever we applied for it, you do have to send out tenant notifications. So all these tenants were notified that we were applying for that program, and we would again have to send out tenant notifications.
Right. So the reason I ask that is, you know, I think this is great, personally. I think it's I mean, if somebody came into my house and said, hey, I want to upgrade all your appliances, I'd open the door and say, go for it. But what I think and what I would want may not be what someone else thinks and what they want. With your final deadline is what, March 1st?
Yes, sir. March 1st at 5 p.m., or whether we're ready or not, we have to have our application in, or we do not get to this.
Okay. Now, I obviously can't speak for everybody else sitting up here, but how possible would it be for you to, say, send out documentation to all the residents or meet with all the residents and have their signature attesting that they agree with this plan and that they support this plan, you know, because I'm, sitting here thinking, okay, how am I going to vote on this? If I had a list of signatures of every single resident saying, yes, we want this, it would make my decision much easier.
And they understand what they got to go through. You know, that, hey, we don't care, we're willing to get displaced for every day.
Yes, sir, and I'm not going to say that's outside of the realm of possibility. It's certainly something we can see getting done. I can definitely state that tenants would be notified well in advance, and we're doing our best to serve our population.
Right. Yeah, I mean, ideally I'd say, well, hey, let's have a town hall and talk about it, but, with COVID, it wouldn't be feasible to have that many people in one place at one time. But I would feel more comfortable, voting yes or no on a situation if I knew how the residents, supported it, because I don't live there. So I wouldn't be able to say, I don't want to speak on their behalf, not knowing what they would want.
How long are they normally displaced when you're working on a complex like that?
This isn't something I can specifically answer. I've not personally worked with a Hoover company through one of their renovations.
Okay.
But I can say from my past experience working with another developer, it's usually a matter of a few days. Ideally, again, I really would like to emphasize, the goal is not move them out during the day. The goal is move them into a unit that's already done. So as there's a vacant unit, to move them into that unit. So it's a matter of transferring your address than disrupting your life day after day while they're trying to.
So are they doing one unit at a time, or are they doing several?
They would do as many vacant units as there are possibly available simultaneously.
Vacant units?
Yes, and hopscotch kind of through the development.
And I can't imagine us having vacancies here. So
I don't have in front of me the.
yeah, so the question would be, where would they go? Even if it's for a couple of days, where would they go?
If all the units are filled,
You know.
where are you going to put these families at if there's no vacant unit to put them in?
We would move, just shuffle them around within the existing unit as best as we're able.
But if there's no existing unit, and let's just say there
Their own
isn't.
unit.
Their own unit.
Oh, their own
They would, if they're gonna work in the kitchen, they would ask them to stay in the other parts of the house while they worked in the kitchen. If they're gonna work in the bathrooms, they would ask them to stay in the other part of the house while they worked in the bathroom, create a safe environment where they can actually do the job to get it done. You know, to remodel a kitchen, you gotta tell the folks, you're not gonna have a sink for a couple of days. And that's no matter who doing it. Nobody can do it without shutting the water off and taking the sink out. It's just, that's just part of it. But, and to what some of you have said, it would have been great to know what the residents was feeling and what their thoughts were.
Their input matters.
That's right.
Number one.
Their input matters. But if we have an opportunity for them to have a better place
we're all
living,
for that.
we're all for it.
Yeah. I mean, just like the houses that are getting built right now, that's a beautiful government program going on. And, you know, some people needed new houses, and I'm for that too, you know, to get Town Oaks. Town Oaks has been here a long time, you know, but in a sense, like I said, there's good and there's bad, and there's good, bad things, and we're going to get the brunt of the bad, you know, when we get the calls.
That's true. But
I think
like I
it'd be
said,
nice to
And that's
know how
okay. That's my job.
yeah, like I said, I'm just helping everybody understand the construction side of it, because there's no way to do this without those people being moved around a little bit. And ideally, it would be great if they had a unit, they could move them from one unit to the other one. Do they need to do their unit and they go back and keep going? But to move them in their home, to say, you know, we're going to be working in the kitchen today, you won't be able to use your appliances today, but we're going to take these all out. We've got the new ones here, we're going to put the new ones in, and you'll have it tomorrow or the next day. Most people can adjust to that.
In that case, people can adjust because it's nothing that you're not dealing with chemicals or anything.
Right.
When I worked at the rest home, there was a lot of, we couldn't paint because of certain issues, people on respirators and stuff like that. So all of that has to be taken into account.
Yeah.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
It says here that this resolution that you're asking the council to approve tonight, has to be submitted on March 1st, 2021.
Right.
Would it be possible, in the interest of what the councilors have voiced tonight, for us to just lay this aside for tonight, have you go talk to the residents like they've asked, and then you take this back up in January or even at the February meeting, because it's just a vote. It only takes just a second for the councilors to make a vote on this, and then you have your resolution.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible for them to do that?
You can table the item if you think necessary.
Councilors? Mayor, thank you.
I share Mr. Lynn's concerns, the other concerns addressed about displacement, and obviously reaching out to the residents to see how they feel about this project. I wasn't aware of it until 4 days ago when I saw this in the packet, and I personally would like some time to learn more about the property and the residents who live there. Has your group been involved with a similar project perhaps several years ago?
I can tell you, Arts Advantage, we are owners in 4 different housing developments throughout the state of Texas. We have one presently under construction in Caldwell. We have been building new housing. In this case, we are serving as a consultant for the current owners of the apartments. And they own significantly more in the way of affordable housing properties than we do as Arts Advantage. Hamilton Valley developed their first property in 1969. They currently manage 90 properties in 65 different towns throughout Texas.
So it wouldn't be difficult for me to reach out to someone at a different community somewhere in the state who's gone through a similar process and find out what the impact was on the community. I know there's a need for quality, affordable housing in Kenedy. I hear that from people all the time, and this is going to be something that will definitely improve the property. There's no doubt about that. But how we get through the process, I would like personally a little more time to learn more about it and reach out to some other communities who've had similar projects. Council, do you have any further questions or comments on this?
I just, like I said earlier, it'd be easier to make a decision, for someone else if I knew how they felt. I know people that live there. I know for sure that if I asked them right now, they'd say, yeah, for sure, let's do it. But that's not, I'd like to know what other people think, that also live there.
But when we sent out notifications for this past cycle, the local manager there did say that people were excited and wanted to know what was coming. But I can't speak to how many that were.
My concern is, I'm sure they're excited, but do they know what they would have to deal with during the process?
Their notification would have included the renovation plan.
Gotcha.
How they would have
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean.
Any further?
Like I said, if the council needs to table this item and have us come back at a future time when we can provide the items requested, we're happy to do so.
Any further questions or discussion on this? If there's no further questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I make a motion, we go ahead and table item number 10 till we get further information from the residents of Town Oaks.
I'll second.
Within 30 days.
The proper terminology is to set it aside and then pick a date you want to pick it back up.
Okay. Next. I would like to set this aside for the January City Council meeting for the City of Kenedy 2021.
There we go.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
Councilor Wynn?
Yeah.
Councilor Kenedy?
Yes.
Councilor Zari?
Yes.
Councilor Majid?
Yes.
Yes.
All voted in favor. Motion carries. Thank you for your time, sir.
One question. What is the best method for me to get that information? Should I direct it to the city manager? Yes, I do.
You can contact the city secretary and she can assist you with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 11 on the agenda. Consideration and possible action in regard to the acceptance of a cost proposal for the Kuritso well project, well number 17, Kuritso well 1, and well number 18, Kuritso well 2, from Weisinger, am I pronouncing that correct? Weisinger Incorporated, in the amount of $2,594,100, and to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Weisinger Incorporated for above scope and price. Do I have a motion to consider this item?
Make a motion, we discuss item number 11.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Mr. Lynn, do you have a presentation?
Is that proposal not in our packet?
It was emailed to you, it was 322 pages on the council.
Okay.
22.
I just want to show on Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Right here.
It's in a separate
Very
email.
long.
So, Southwest Engineers did the award package and that, and they did the tabulations and everything. And Weisinger was the company that came in as the low bidder. So they're the ones that we're presenting to you tonight. For you all to award the contract to in the amount of $2,594,100 for them to begin construction on our well number 17 and well number 18 on our brand new Kuritso water line of South Federal. So tonight, that's what we're doing. We're actually authorizing Mayor Baker to execute the contract with Weisinger so they can begin construction in January. Questions? Thank you.
Mr. Lynn, are you recommending that we move forward with this?
I am recommending that we move forward with Weisinger, yes, sir.
Well, as we all know, our ultimate goal is to get a new water supply for the city, and this will be another step in the right direction. So,
That's right.
if there are any questions for Mr. Lynn or discussion on this agenda item? If there's no questions or further discussion on this, I would entertain a motion on agenda item number 11.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and award the bid for the Kuritso well water project, well number 17, Kuritso well number 1, and well number 18, Kuritso well number 2 for Weisinger Incorporated in the amount of $2,594,100, and to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with them, Weisinger Incorporated, for the above scope and price.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
Councilor Wynn?
Yes.
Councilor Brianna?
Yes.
Councilor Sally?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Myers?
Yes.
All in favor?
Motion carries. Item number 12, consideration and possible action in regard to the acceptance of a bid for Building C at Larry Kiesling Youth Sports Complex. Do I have a motion for discussion of this
Make a
item?
motion to consider item 12 on the agenda.
I'll second that.
Mr. Lynn, do you have a presentation?
Okay, so this one goes back a little ways. We originally had Building C out for a bid, and we got bids in at the council meeting. We got into the financials of the sports complex. We were extremely over budget, and the council elected at that point in time to set aside accepting any bids, and we had some good bid. We re-put it out for bid. Marshall Company was an original bidder on the original bid for that. They submitted a bid again. They were the sole bidder. We had already done our due diligence in the past. Marshall's bid came in at $286,800 to do the Building C, which is the bathrooms at our complex. And so I would ask the City Council to consider accepting that bid of $286,800. This money will be coming from the 4B Corporation. They allocated that in their budget to pay for this building, so that's where we're getting the funds for this from. I would also ask the City Council that since this is the only bid, not only in accepting this proposal, but you all would authorize Mayor Baker to execute the contract and then the contract is going up so that we can move forward as quickly as possible with getting Marshall out on site. Any questions? I can answer for you guys.
Any questions for Mr. Lynn from the council? I know this is an important step in that project, and we all want it to be open and ready to play ball in spring, UIL willing and COVID willing. If there are no further questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to consider and possible action in regard to the acceptance of a bid from Marshall Company Ltd. for Building C, the restrooms at the Larry Kiesling Youth Sports Complex, and accept Joe Baker to authorize the signature to move forward with this.
I'll second.
Authorize the mayor.
Authorize the mayor. Yes, I'm sorry. Authorize Mayor Joe Baker.
What's the amount? Does he have to say the amount?
$286,800.
$800.
Was that captured in the motion, Amanda? Okay. We have a motion and
I'll
a
second that.
Motion and a second. Amanda, if you'd call the roll.
Councilor Wynn?
Yes.
Councilor Brianna?
Yes.
Councilor Sally?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Myers?
Yes.
All in favor?
Motion carries. Item number 13, consideration and possible action in regard to the authorization to advertise for bids for the East Main Drainage and Paving Project. Is there a motion to consider this
Make a
item?
motion to consider item 13 on the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Mr. Lynn, is there a presentation?
Thank you.
Go out for bids.
The East Main project, been a long time coming. We're at this point now to where we need to put it out for bids. We did hire Mark McDonald to do so, and here in just a second I'm going to yield the floor to Mr. Senovitz. He is the lead engineer for Mark McDonald. Mr. Sinovitz and I go back to the days at Hanson, where we discussed East Main in great detail, numerous hours in my office. He came up with a wonderful plan, so when council went with Mont McDonald, and he was with Mont McDonald, this was a no-brainer for me personally. So I'm going to yield the floor. Mr. Sinovitz, the floor is yours. To answer to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Mayor, council members, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited to be here because tonight is a historic night for the citizens of East Main. So, first time in many years, literally generations, there's an opportunity now to move forward with improving the drainage and the street that they have had challenges with for so many years. They're very excited about that. I'm dressed this way because I've been out in the field marking the vision on the ground in orange paint. I do that at the end of the design so I can kind of see, okay, this is the vision. Is there anything that looks out of whack? And if you want to go down there, you can see the orange markings. We're going to continue that tomorrow. And I'm here to introduce myself and then also to answer any questions. I don't have a formal presentation, but it's all up here. And if you have any questions about the project or the goal, it's a very robust design. I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Mr. Senator, when the bids, hopefully everybody agrees with it. I'm only one person up here on this council, but hopefully everything goes good for this item that we're discussing. When we get the bids in, the bids are accepted, how soon will the project get off and going, and what is the projected completion date for this project?
So the timeline, you have to advertise at least 2 weeks. So I know Amanda will be putting the ad out in the local paper. And we're also going to be publishing on a website called CivCast. It's an electronic website that contractors can access. So after the advertisement, there'll be a bid opening. It'll be about a week for us to evaluate the bids, the prices, and I also understand that we are going to look at some quality issues as well, their experience in doing the kinds of things that we're going to ask them to do. After that 1 week, we'll write a letter of recommendation for the contractor and bring that to the next council meeting. So if that rotates into January, and we're kind of close to the January bid meeting, then you'll vote on it, and then they'll have 10 days to come up with all their insurance money, insurance documents and contract documents. This is a very robust schedule. We have a 10-week timeline for construction. So, if we get approval by the council in January and they get started in mid to late January, then you're looking at 2.5 to 3 months completion time. That puts you February, March, April, May, 2021. That's a very robust schedule for a concrete street.
That's
Is that your question?
perfect. Yes, sir.
And some of the challenges that we had encountered before is not having a system whereby it was going to drain water and get it out of the way and have it where people can get in and out of their driveways, and all of those things have been addressed.
Yes, sir. If you'll give me a minute, I'll explain that system. I'm very pleased with it. I'm very confident it's going to work. There's two elements of street design. One is the pavement itself, but the pavements also act as drainage products as in addition to any piping. Now, you've probably seen there's been some storm drain piping that was included in the original construction that hasn't been completed, and that was designed for about a 10-year storm event. What I'm concerned about with that is that there's no way for a larger event to escape the end of East Main. You want to have an emergency overflow for a larger event, like a 100-year storm. So the drainage portion of this is there's several items on kind of a holistic approach. And here's what they are. The street is going to be concrete. That will allow that street to handle water as a channel. The street's going to be slightly lower than the existing street so that lots can drain to the street. We're going to take the water from Gulf at the west end of East Main to Waverly, and then we're going to pave Waverly with a 12-inch stepped curb, and it's going to act as an outlet channel. It's going to be about 1.5 feet lower than the existing intersection. If anybody's been out there, every time it rains, the city has to go out there and put rocks in this big water hole. It's out there right now. Go out there right now. There's water sitting in that intersection. We're going to take that north toward the city's wastewater treatment plant property, and they have an open field there we're going to build a trapezoidal grass line channel off the end of Gulf and Waverly that will take the flow out to Escondido Creek. So that's the main flow pattern. Morning is a dead end. It's going to come off of it's the old cotton compress side. There's water coming off that side. Morning will be a concrete street that will also drain to East Main. Waverly, also the dead end part, is also receiving a lot of water off-site coming into the neighborhood. That portion will be concrete and it'll again flow to the north and out of the neighborhood. So that's the drainage sloping part. There's other components. There's an alley on the south side of East Main that has kind of a drainage ditch there, but it's not really graded properly. We're gonna do a V grass line channel with a berm about 2 feet high to protect the whole south end of East Main neighborhood. That water will be directed to the Waverly outlet. We've designed that for a 100-year event. So any water that used to come in through all those lots, through the backs of people's yards and under their houses, is going to be protected by a berm, directed to Waverly, and then controlled as an outlet channel. On the east side of East Main, there's a large farm. We did robust hiking around the entire drainage area and determined that the water is coming from actually on the south side of the highway, under culvert, around the cotton compress site, through an old culvert at the railroad, and then it makes its way back across the farmland, and it does come back toward East Main. So we're going to build a berm along that side of the dead end part of East Main, directing that flow again toward our outlet channel to Escondido Creek, and then we're going to punch a hole in the existing junction box there, that the pipe that is there, to try to collect any local drainage going out there. So you can kind of see we're protecting the whole neighborhood with a ring around it with V-ditches with berms and then an outlet to the north. So that's the drainage component. Let me speak briefly about the street component. Right now it's an asphalt street and dirt and mud. That site sits on many, many feet of clay. Looked at the soils reports and the soils maps. You know, clay swells and shrinks and you can't drive it and it gets gumbo-y. We're going to put in 6 inches of lime stabilized subgrade. The lime hardens the clay and gets rid of the shrink and swell issues. We're going to recycle the existing asphalt and base material and make it cement stabilized base. We're going to add cement to it and creating like a concrete layer. We'll have a 1-inch layer of asphalt that is it's a bond break so that the concrete street above doesn't reflect cracks from the ground underneath. And then we're designing for a 50-year life a concrete pavement that's continuously reinforced concrete pavement. And there's a TxDOT detail and TxDOT design parameters. And we've designed for a 50-year design life. That area is so flat, it's a 0.3% grade. And asphalt parking lots even need at least a 1% or 2% grade so the water doesn't sit in the asphalt, create bird baths, and then it unravels the asphalt, creates potholes, the water gets into the clay underneath and creates a big wave. That's what's happening out there. With concrete, you can go at 0.1% slope even. If there's a bird bath that doesn't damage the concrete, it dries up and goes away. We're going to have a 0.3% minimum grade with a concrete street, concrete curbs. We're going to put in concrete driveways for all the existing driveways that are out there. We are going to show on our design a 5-foot sidewalk. However, Mr. Lynn and I have discussed that will be funded under a different funding mechanism. So on the plans, it'll say not this contract, but we'll have that in the design to show exactly where that sidewalk is going to be down both sides of East Main. I've been talking to all the residents. They're seeing me out there marking their driveways and their widths, and they're very excited about the project. So again, I'm really excited about getting this project finished and doing it in a way that the citizens of East Main deserve. I'm really excited to be a part of this.
The existing drop boxes that were put in this past, 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
They're pretty high. Are those going to get lowered? Just so they can help with the flow?
Excellent question. So at the very east end of East Main, there was a gas line that was encountered in the previous construction. From what I understand, they didn't know if it was an active line or not, so rather than finding out if it was active or not, they just raised the pipe and went over it. So that kind of pushed a lot of the junction boxes and the grates. If you go out there, you see a lot of grates are actually sticking up above the ground. I think the idea was to come back later and try to grade all this to drain, but that so far hasn't really worked very well. There are some boxes they were supposed to put in that they left holes there. The previous contractor left the site and did not come back, so we're going to put in junction boxes there. They're in the parkway between the back of curb and the sidewalk, so they're not going to be an issue with any kind of conflict. There's a few of the grates that I'm going to salvage and convert to a curb inlet. So instead of having a grate sticking up, this high above the ground, we'll have an opening on the curb that the water can then go into. I'm going to check those tomorrow, as a matter of fact. One of my associates is coming out. We're going to spot check. I think we can salvage many of those grates and convert them into curb inlets. If there are any storm drain system components that are unsalvageable, either they're too high or they're not really producing the right drainage, I thought about taking them out, but I think we'll just plug them, just to save costs and save the street getting torn up one more time. So that's the stretch. I'm going to try to salvage what I can from what was installed and utilize what we can.
Any further questions? Any further discussion amongst the council? If there are no further questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion on item number 14.
I will make a motion that we take action on this in regards to advertising for bids for East Main drainage and paving project, so we can get started.
I'll second that.
Just to clarify, this is a motion to approve advertising?
Yes.
Okay.
Authorize.
Yes, to authorize and approve. Motion and second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
Counselor White?
Yes.
Counselor Freeman?
Yes.
Counselor Sines?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor? Motion carries. This is an important step to moving this project forward, which has been going on a very long time, and I know the residents there were going to be very excited when it's complete, hopefully April and May of next year. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is number 15.
Number 14.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 14. Consideration and possible action in regard to a service agreement with Tyler Technologies Incorporated, providing the city of Kenedy with access to Tyler's proprietary software products. Is there a presentation from the city staff?
I'll make a motion we discuss item 14.
And I'll second.
Motion and second to discuss. Is there a presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, thank you, Council. Okay, so Tyler Technologies is what we use right now. That houses all of our financials and everything. That's our back offices. Okay. The issue we have is that we're a government. And we must always keep a working government. The problem is, everything that we're doing here in the city of Kenedy is housed on a local server within this building. So if we had a natural disaster come through, with the exceptions of any backups that we might have made and could get out of the building, we would lose access to what we've done and what we have. What's before you tonight is to enter into a service agreement with Tyler Technologies to take all of our existing stuff from a local server and move it to cloud-based. Okay? By moving it to cloud-based, that enables all of us that have access to have a working government remotely, wherever we are, as long as we have access to the internet. That's highly important for us to continue going should we have another Harvey or something blow through here. We would be able to continue operations and emergency management, things of that nature. Okay. Now, there is a cost with going to the cloud. It is not all that inexpensive, especially for a municipality our size and the amount of data we have and use. It's going to cost us $29,900 a year. That is an annual recurring fee. Okay? Now, just so that you know, currently, our annual recurring fee with Tyler Technologies is just over $27,000 a year. So we're only talking about a $2,900 a year increase for much better technology and a little bit more security for our data. Recently, those of you who were on council remember the issue we had with just enough emails, don't answer this email, don't do this, don't do that. Well, that was basically because we're housed locally. And we've been housed on a cloud somewhere. We have our protection, and we have the protection of the people who run the cloud as well. So you have kind of a dual layer of protection. I'm not going to stand here and say that it's 100% secure. Nothing is, as we've seen breaches of Citibank and Social Security and all that kind of stuff. But it's much more secure than having one sitting in your back office. It is that much more secure. Yeah. So that is where we are. Now, this will also let us do something that we haven't done yet. We've been trying to get our municipal court incorporated into Tyler Technologies as well. It is currently on its own system. So by moving to the cloud, we will be able to pull everything under the city, the Tyler Technologies, which will give us access to everything over each department. So we'll have cross-departmental access going forward with everything. So, which is a good thing, because Tyler has a plethora of stuff that they can do for the courts and things of that nature. Actually, the city of Kenedy hasn't even scratched the services Tyler can do, so we'll be able to do it. So anyway, I've rambled on past 3 minutes for us to have an hour and 47-minute meeting tonight, so I apologize.
It may run a little longer tonight, I believe.
So anyway, Council, that's where
What was the cost? What was the cost on it?
$29,900.
$29,900.
And that's going to include the court as well?
That would be
Yeah.
right.
Every-
That's the whole kit and caboodle, court and everything.
So we're only increasing about 2,500, like you said.
Basically,
Yeah.
yes.
One thing that I do want to add about the court is that the court clerk will no longer have to handle any cards, cash, and check payments. It'll be in our clerk system, so that way somebody can actually just come in and us be the hub right here in City Hall where we receive all the money instead of Glenda having to make her own deposits or anything else. We'll be able to do everything from here. Glenda will just handle the municipal court part, but we can handle the payments.
So a situation like with Linda's Eye and that,
Yeah, we'll be
people
able to
who want to
accept
make
it.
payments can still make payments.
Sounds great to me.
So, any other questions, Council? Mayor?
Just a couple of questions. I'm looking through the Tyler software list. So the first items listed are similar to QuickBooks or a similar software package that we consumers use, except it's more specialized for city purposes, I'm assuming?
Tyler is government specific. You can't buy, in all the accounting I've done, I could not buy this for private industry. Tyler does not do anything but government.
Yeah, a lot of the courts use Tyler.
Yeah,
technology.
a lot of people, Tyler is actually the industry leader.
I see an item listed for a utility handheld meter reader interface. I was under the impression that they're being read from City Hall with the new meters. Is that correct?
That is correct. This proposal is a little ancient versus the new technology. Tyler doesn't know all that we're doing right just yet. So.
Just one more question. Are there any other communities in this area that are currently using these software products, and are they happy with them?
Well, I can tell you that the more appropriate question is, who isn't using Tyler? That is actually the more appropriate.
So they dominate in this.
They dominate all over in Texas.
I know Park City and Florence really uses Tyler.
They are based out of Lubbock.
The county uses
Unfortunately,
Tyler.
we don't have the sales rep I like, Mr. Cunningham, but these guys, they are virtually everywhere.
And that's all my questions. Any further questions from the council? Any further discussion on this item? There being no more questions or discussion, I would entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion that we accept the service agreement with Tyler Technologies.
Second.
29, you need to say the dollar amount.
Oh,
And you need to authorize somebody.
And you need to authorize the city manager to
there you go.
execute.
I'm learning.
Thank you, Councilman.
the
29,200.
29,900?
So included in that motion, $29,900 and authorize city manager to execute that agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
Counselor Wynn?
Yes.
Counselor Briones?
Yes.
Counselor Sines?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Wyman?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is number 15, consideration and possible action in regard to appointing a mayor pro tem. Do I have a motion for discussion of this?
I make a motion we consider item 15 on the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Mr. Lynn, if you could provide some direction on this. This will be my first time for this process. Yes, sir.
May I just, for these last two, thank you, Council. Okay, all right, so every year, there's some things we have to do every year, okay? 1st of October, first meeting, you have to do your newspaper, okay? Every time there's a city election, you have to vote and nominate Mayor Pro Tem. That's just one of the things that you have to do. If you all would like, later on tonight when we adjourn, what noodles are down the hallway, you can all beat me with one. This was supposed to be on last month's agenda, and that is my fault it did not make it. So we make sure we got it on this month's agenda for you guys to take this up. This, Mayor Baker, is a total council thing. The council decides who's going to be the Mayor Pro Tem, and it's first of three. Essentially what happens is a councilor will nominate somebody, and then we'll go through, is there a second? And if there's not a second, that fails. We go right down the list until we get a second and a vote.
Okay. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Brandon Briones.
We have a nomination. Is there a second?
I second it.
I'll second that. Brandon did a good job.
Nomination and second. Ms. Hines, if you can call the roll.
You did.
Counselor Wynn?
Yes.
Counselor Sines?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Meyer?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Briones. I think you did an outstanding job as Mayor Pro Tem, so I know you will continue to do so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you, council.
Item number 16, consideration and possible action in regard to making improvements to the City of Kenedy website. This is the first agenda item that I've asked Mr. Lynn to include. After getting elected, I received some citizens' complaints about the website, and I have my own complaints as before being elected mayor, as I was a frequent visitor to the city's website. So it's something that I know there's room for improvement, and I think probably we all would like to see some improvement with the website. I just have a few words to say about what I would like to see. It sounds like you have an outstanding plan in place, and I'm excited to see some improvements here. I know in terms of...
We need to get a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we get a motion to discuss this item?
Need a motion. Y'all make a motion that we consider item 16 on the agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion and second.
Now continue.
It's so easy to forget these procedural things.
Then they get us in trouble.
I haven't seen many other councils that follow that system, so I don't know if it's something we might consider abandoning. It seems unnecessarily formal to me.
Put it on the
What we're going to have
agenda.
on a future agenda, Mayor, not to take away from this, is we're going to bring the decorum back up. And I'll rewrite that ordinance for the council, and I'll rewrite the decorum for the council. And we can definitely talk about it at that point in time. But you are very correct. A lot of councils, and I have actually told the council this, a lot of councils don't do that. It's you open the item, but that's certainly not the item that we're talking about. We'll bring that up and we will address it.
Put it on the agenda so we can talk about it.
Yes, so that we can
Sounds
talk
good.
about
Might help streamline things a bit.
it. Yes, sir.
In terms of what I would like to see in terms of necessities, I'd like to see updated contact information on the website for elected officials and city staff. I visited it just today, and there's some out-of-date information up there. Agendas. I would like to see agendas for city council meetings posted to the website simultaneously at the same time that they're posted on the front porch. And I would like to see them in a format that's downloadable and printable and legible for the average user. PDF seems to be very common at some other city websites that I've seen, so I would like to see that. And then the third item in terms of what I consider needs is minutes from the city council meeting. Once they're approved, I would like to see them posted there so the public can easily access them and read about the city's business, because after all, the city's business is their business. This is their city, and I'd like all that information just as out front and transparent as possible. Now, the wants list is much longer, and I'm not going to get into the details because I know we'd all like to go home and see how the Cowboys are doing. But the wants list, there's a whole lot of wants. Online bill paying, live video from city council meetings, many of the things that you mentioned, Mr. Lynn. With websites, there's literally hundreds of things that you can add to them to make them be of value to the community, and that's what I want it to be, is a website that is of good value to the community. And having said my piece, I'd open it up for any further discussion or questions.
Well, my question is the Tyler group that we were talking about making the cloud change with, they are capable of doing most of the stuff that we want done.
Well, they're not going to be doing our website.
They're just holding it.
No, they're going to hold our office stuff, or that stuff that's on our computer.
Okay.
Software.
Right.
So who does our website right now?
It is Mixed Marketing. Is who's
Nobody.
doing it.
And who's
Nobody.
and who are we looking at?
Drew.
Okay. So we did talk. You did cover that, right?
Yes, I did it in my city manager report.
So in that, what is there a dollar amount that we're going to pay them, or what? It was $500.
Right. So what's going to happen is, okay, we're going to pay roughly for dollar amount's sake, we're going to pay about $600, and he's going to take what we have, and he's going to move it over to his platform, and then he's going to fix everything, and then he's going to ask us how we want it set up, and then he's going to set it up for us so that all these things I mentioned in my city manager report and some of the things Mayor mentioned will be on there ready to go. Okay? And then every month, which we're going to pay annually so that we get a break, we're going to pay about $500 a year, basically, and he's going to host it, he's going to maintain it, he's going to make sure that Ms. Hines and the staff who are working on it are trained on how to do things. If we have any questions, he'll be there to help us with support and all this kind of stuff. And I've kind of listened into the conversations Ms. Hines has been having with this man. And, I like what he has to say. I like the way he's presenting himself. I like how he's actually helping Ms. Hines with some things to make some things go. So.
And do this person handle other municipalities?
Floresville. He does the Floresville website.
Okay.
One of the things that I want to be very careful about is because when we did the last one, was it 2 years ago? He was only going to do the logo. Am I correct? He was going to do a logo as well?
He did the logo first. And
He was going to do the logo, okay, and we paid him $1,500. And then I never knew he was going to do, no one was ever told as far as, I never knew that he was going to go do the website, so we never knew that. And they paid him, how much?
we talked about it earlier. It was around.
Well, his bill is $36, almost $3,700.
Exactly, that we didn't know, I didn't know. I don't know if everybody else knew that he was also going to do the website for a different amount. I want to know the total cost up front.
Total cost up front, counselor,
So that today.
Out the door, for the year, is $1,100. Next year,
I want to know up front.
Next year it'll be $500. This year it's $1,100.
So I don't want to hear in the background, oh, well, he's going to be doing something else, and none of us know about it. I'm not going to be happy about that.
So this is the guy that changed our logo?
Yes.
Well, the guy that we're getting away from.
Huh?
The guy that we're getting away
Yeah, that we're getting away from.
Yeah. So the guy we're getting away from
was the guy that changed the city
changed the logo.
Well, he didn't actually change it. We changed the logo.
Well, that's, I'm glad that y'all said that because I want to go back to the old logo.
We can't.
Why not?
Because we don't own it. That's why we had to change that.
Who said that? Who brought that up about us infringing on that?
The attorney.
What other city had that logo?
We didn't ask who all had it.
Nobody asked?
But the
Nobody
attorney.
looked into it?
Our attorney looked into it. That's what
I'm saying. We had that logo for a long time, and nobody ever brought that issue up.
Yeah.
And our trucks still have the logo.
They have the old logo.
Yeah, I know, it hadn't been changed, but the city, and you know, we can get the attorney to visit it again, but that was the only reason we wanted to change it, because
I think we need to, because
we were told by the attorney that it had to be done.
I think y'all were given a bill of sale on that infringement. Because that logo, I've never seen another city that has that logo. The state of Texas with the star in the direction of Kenedy.
If I remember, Johnny, the reason we changed it, the attorney told us somewhere in the neighborhood, don't quote me word for word, but other people were using the logo, I guess, what other, like, sites on Facebook that were using that logo, groups, chat groups, something like that.
The state of Texas.
And you can't, and we were told that we had to change that logo because the city has to have its own logo that nobody else could use, so.
And it has to be trademarked.
It has to be trademarked and copyrighted.
Yeah.
And you can't trademark the state logo.
The state of Texas is the state of Texas.
Yeah, anyone can use the state logo.
I've seen lots of trucks with, you know, that as long as the design is different, which the name is Kenedy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there is Kenedy County, but it's spelled totally different. Our Kenedy is spelled with one N. See, so that's what makes it different. And when y'all did that, when I heard about it, I said, I don't understand that. Why? Because I've never seen another city with that logo.
Counselor,
Neither have I.
let me interject. I appreciate your discussion here. However, it's not part of the line item. So we'll need to.
I would like it put on an agenda.
Yeah, we'll have to put it on a future.
Yeah, I would like it put on an agenda because I think we need to discuss it.
And we need to make sure the attorney is present so they can help us understand.
I will have one of our attorneys show up for that discussion.
Okay. Sure.
Yes, if we can get that placed on a future agenda, I think that's a topic we need to talk about a little more, definitely. The topic at hand is the website in general, not the logo. So does anybody have any discussion on this? It's not really an action item. I just put it on there mainly for discussion, just so that Mr. Lynn could update us on his plans. I do have one more question for you, Mr. Lynn. Do you have a timeline in place? When can we expect it to be up and running and functioning?
If I said I'll have it done by Christmas, I would be lying.
That would be very quick.
I would say, usually in my experience of putting websites together, if as comprehensive as this one's going to be, what we're going to see is we'll see it piecemeal out a little at a time. So I would say let's just so that nobody has any unreasonable expectations. Let's just say 60 to 90 days. We should have this thing up, running, and tweaked. I feel comfortable that the gentleman will do it much quicker, but I would hate to say 30 days and 31 days everybody be calling and saying what's going on with our website. Okay? So let's just say 60 to 90 days, and whenever he gives Ms. Hines or me or whoever's working it, the double thumbs up that he's ready to go live, I'll shoot everybody an email and say, hey guys, get ready, we're fixing to go live.
And that's $600.
Yeah.
$600?
$600 plus $500.
Yeah, that initial will be $600.
I'm going to write that down.
You write that down.
That's a good price, and 90 days is certainly reasonable as long as we've, been living with the website that we have. The city's website, I've heard people refer to it as the city's digital front door, and that's an important front door, especially if you go on Google right now and you search City of Kenedy Economic Development, you're going to get a Google listing that shows a closed office. Unfortunately, the Karnes County Economic Community Development Corporation is now defunct. They're not active. And Google still shows it as a closed office for some reason because, it's the internet. So since our EDC, the 4B Corporation, does not have a website that I'm aware of, I think the city needs to take the lead in this regard and present a good picture of the town, because if somebody's thinking about bringing jobs here, bringing businesses here, that's going to be their first stop. They're going to search the city of Kenedy and see what we have to offer. And so that's an important thing to have, and I think that's a very fair price for something that's that important.
I will tell you, when you guys called to interview me, that's the first place I went. Was the website. I started looking for everything I wanted.
Well, unless someone wants to make a motion on this, I would say take no action on this item and continue on to agenda item number 17. The item is to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second to that motion?
Second.
Second. Amanda, if you call the roll, please.
Yes.
Councilor Fernandez?
Yes.
Councilor Sines? Yes. Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Meyer?
Yes.
All in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming, everybody.
I will apologize to the council for rambling on for 20 more minutes and causing us to go over our goal of 147, so
Not too bad, not too bad. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.